At 4:46 on Friday afternoon, a voice note arrives from someone at work. I need you to approve this before 5. Everyone is waiting. You open the file. The first page looks familiar. Your name is already listed beside the decision. The numbers beneath it are new. You ask where they came from. 3 dots appear, disappear, then return. We can go through all that later. Right now, I just need you to confirm. Nothing in the message sounds openly threatening. The deadline is real enough. The person sounds tired. Other people may genuinely be waiting. Yet your body has already begun negotiating against your judgment. You do not want to delay the team. You do not want to appear difficult. You do not want your hesitation quoted later as the reason something failed. So your hand moves toward the approval button before the missing information has arrived. That moment contains the architecture of manipulation. Not a villain in a dark room, not a perfect lie. A shortened deadline, an invisible audience, incomplete facts, and a quiet suggestion that a decent person would make the problem disappear. You think the decision is whether to approve the file. The deeper decision is whether pressure gets to choose the conditions under which you think. That is what this video will change. You will learn how manipulation narrows attention, borrows your identity, disguises cost, and turns discomfort into obedience. More importantly, you will leave with a practical method for restoring judgment without becoming suspicious, cold, or impossible to work with. Begin with the distinction most people miss. Manipulation does not always defeat your intelligence. It changes the room in which your intelligence has to operate. It removes time. It blurs the request. It makes one consequence feel enormous and every other consequence feel distant. It recruits guilt, urgency, fear, status, affection, or the need to be seen as reasonable. Then it offers one action that promises immediate relief. Approve this. Answer now. Do not make it awkward. Trust me. Think about the details later. The action may be small. The surrender happens earlier, when you accept the frame that says, there is no legitimate space to pause. Which pressure moves you fastest? Urgency, guilt, flattery, fear of conflict, or the need to prove you are trustworthy? Keep your answer nearby. A person does not need access to every weakness. One reliable entrance is enough. Machiavelli was not writing about workplace messages or emotional boundaries. In Book 1, Chapter 25 of the Discourses on Livy, he discusses political reform and the value of preserving familiar appearances even when institutions have changed beneath them. His subject was government. The original passage is not personal therapy, and it is not permission to deceive people. Applied carefully, however, it gives us a sharp warning. Familiar form can calm judgment, even when the substance has changed. A request may arrive in the language of teamwork while transferring risk to you. Concern may sound like advice while demanding obedience. An apology may sound accountable while asking for immediate access without repair. A special offer may resemble opportunity while denying you time to examine the cost. Appearance matters because your mind uses familiar signals to save effort. A warm tone suggests safety. Confidence suggests knowledge. Urgency suggests importance. Consensus suggests correctness. A personal confession can create a sense of trust. These signals can be sincere. They can also be used as substitutes for evidence. The answer is not to distrust warmth, confidence, urgency, consensus, or vulnerability. It is to stop allowing any one of them to complete the entire judgment. Persuasion and manipulation both attempt to influence you. The difference is not that persuasion feels pleasant and manipulation feels unpleasant. Honest persuasion can challenge you. Manipulation can feel comforting. A more useful distinction is what happens to your freedom and understanding during the process. Persuasion makes the request clearer. It gives relevant reasons. It can tolerate questions. It allows you to know what you are accepting. A persuasive person may prefer yes, but your no does not require them to attack your identity. Manipulation often does the opposite. It hides part of the cost, exaggerates the cost of delay, makes questions feel disloyal, or turns disagreement into proof that something is wrong with you. After persuasion, you may still refuse, but you understand more. After manipulation, refusal itself often begins to feel dangerous. Notice the emotional sequence. First comes pressure, then confusion, then the temptation to perform one quick action so the pressure and confusion will stop. That relief matters because manipulation often rewards obedience before the real cost arrives. You say yes, and the room becomes warm again. You lend the money, and the accusation of selfishness disappears. You reveal private information, and affection returns. You accept unfair responsibility, and the conflict ends for the evening. Your mind remembers the immediate relief. Tomorrow receives the bill. This is why intelligent people can remain inside obvious patterns. They are not always choosing the long-term arrangement. They are repeatedly purchasing short-term relief. The first defense is therefore not a clever sentence. It is the ability to survive the discomfort that appears before a clear decision. Urgency is one of the oldest ways to remove that ability. Real emergencies exist. A child is missing. A fire has started. A deadline with known consequences is minutes away. In those moments, speed matters. But many pressures borrow the language of emergency because urgency changes what you inspect. A co-worker sends a task late in the afternoon and says the client needs it immediately. A relative demands an answer during an argument because waiting would give you time to remember the last 3 promises. An online offer includes a countdown that seems designed to make comparison feel like loss. Instead of asking only whether the situation feels urgent, ask, what becomes impossible if I wait? If the answer is vague, the urgency may be emotional rather than practical. You can also ask, who created the deadline? Some deadlines come from reality. Others come from someone else's delay, poor planning, or desire to prevent examination. Their urgency may deserve attention. It does not automatically deserve authority over your standards. A calm sentence restores time. I will answer after I review it. I cannot decide during this conversation. What specifically happens if this waits until tomorrow? These sentences work because they change the conditions of thought, not because they sound dominant. Yet time alone will not protect you if the pressure has already borrowed your identity. Flattery is effective when it does more than praise you. It quietly assigns you a role. You are the only one mature enough to understand. You have always been the generous one. I came to you because you are loyal. You are not like those difficult people who need everything in writing. The compliment creates a small contract. To keep the admired identity, you are expected to perform the requested behavior. This is why some praise leaves you feeling less free. Healthy appreciation describes something you did. Manipulative flattery often predicts what a person of your type should do next. You do not need to reject the compliment. Separate the identity from the request. Perhaps you are generous. That does not decide this loan. Perhaps you are loyal. That does not require concealing someone else's mistake. Being calm does not require accepting disrespect quietly, and competence does not make every neglected task yours. When identity is being recruited, use a private sentence. My character is larger than this request. A single no does not make you selfish. One question does not make you distrustful. Needing evidence does not make you disloyal. The role becomes a trap only when you believe you must keep proving it to whoever names it. Guilt works differently. Flattery pulls you toward an admired self. Guilt pushes you away from a condemned one. A family member says, after everything I have done for you. A colleague says, I guess I know who I can depend on now. A friend says, forget it. I should not have asked. The words may express genuine hurt. People are allowed to be disappointed. The manipulation begins when disappointment is used to erase your right to examine the request. Guilt is especially powerful when there is a real debt somewhere in the history. Someone did help you. Someone did sacrifice. Someone did forgive a mistake. But gratitude is not permanent surrender. A past kindness may deserve appreciation, repayment, care, and loyalty. It does not create unlimited jurisdiction over your time, money, privacy, or decisions. Ask what the debt actually is. Did you make a clear promise? Is there a fair obligation? Is the current request proportional to what happened before? Or is a real memory being stretched until it covers every future disagreement? Manipulation prefers emotional accounting because emotional accounts have no final number. You can be told you still owe more whenever you resist. Clear obligations can be discussed. Endless moral debt can only be obeyed. Watch how one request can change costumes when the first lever fails. At 4:46, everyone is waiting creates urgency. When you ask for the figures, you are the only person I trust with this recruit's identity. If you still hesitate, I guess I was wrong about who would support the team, adds guilt. Then comes respectability. Leadership is already comfortable with it. Let us be realistic. The file has not changed. The missing numbers have not appeared. Only the pressure has changed. Reasonableness is persuasive because it presents a conclusion as though every sensible person has already reached it. Everybody agrees. No normal person would make this complicated. The purpose may not be to prove the conclusion. It may be to make examinations socially expensive. You begin defending your right to ask, instead of evaluating the answer. When that happens, return to specifics. Who is everybody? What exactly was agreed? Which fact makes this the only realistic option? What part of the request are you being asked to accept? A precise question is not an accusation. It is a refusal to let social fog replace information. This matters at work because vague consensus can transfer responsibility. Leadership wants this, may mean one person mentioned it. The team decided, may mean the loudest person spoke, while everyone else remained quiet. It matters inside families because tradition can be used in the same way. We have always done it like this, describes history. It does not settle whether the arrangement is fair now. It matters online because visible numbers imitate agreement. Thousands of likes can show attention. They do not verify a claim, a product, or a motive. The crowd may be right, the crowd may be wrong. Your task is not to oppose it automatically. Your task is to prevent its size from doing the work of evidence. Which is harder for you, questioning a confident person, disagreeing with a group, or letting someone remain disappointed after you have answered clearly? The hardest one often reveals the social cost you are most willing to pay with your own judgment. Manipulation also controls information by controlling sequence. You are given the emotional conclusion first and the facts later. Your brother has betrayed the family. This employee cannot be trusted. That opportunity will never come again. Everyone is upset with you. Once the conclusion enters, every new detail is interpreted inside it. Neutral behavior begins to look guilty. Missing information feels suspicious. Your mind starts helping the frame defend itself. A stronger sequence begins with observable events. What was said, what was done, what is documented, what remains interpretation, what information would change the decision. This is not emotional coldness. It protects emotion from being recruited by a story that has not yet earned certainty. In a conflict, you may hear one person's pain and still delay judgment about another person's motive. You can take a concern seriously without accepting every conclusion attached to it. The distinction is humane because false certainty harms people in both directions. It can make you excuse real mistreatment or punish someone for a story that was incomplete. Manipulation becomes stronger when you are isolated from comparison. Do not tell anyone yet. They would not understand. This needs to stay between us. Privacy can be legitimate. Confidentiality can protect trust, work, safety, and dignity. Secrecy becomes suspicious when its main function is to prevent reality from being checked. Ask why the information must remain private, and for how long. A responsible person can usually explain the boundary. A manipulative arrangement often treats any outside perspective as betrayal. This is why one calm, uninvolved person can change an entire decision. They are not inside the pressure. They do not need the same immediate relief. They may notice that the request is vague, the deadline invented, the risk transferred, or the consequence exaggerated. You do not need a committee for every choice. But decisions involving serious money, reputation, safety, contracts, secrecy, or irreversible consequences should rarely depend on one pressured conversation. Bring the decision into daylight, write down the request, read it without the tone of voice, and ask what advice you would give someone else. Check the policy, the message, the agreement, or the numbers. Manipulation dislikes translation because many pressures lose strength when converted into plain language. "Help me prove you care" may translate into "give me an answer before you are ready." "Be a team player" may mean accept responsibility without authority. "Trust me" may mean do not verify the part that benefits me. Translation does not prove malicious intent. It reveals the practical exchange. That matters because motive is often uncertain. You may never know whether someone planned the pressure, copied a behavior they learned, or simply reacted badly under stress. You do not need to prove a hidden motive before protecting a clear boundary. Another warning appears when the standard keeps moving. You answer the original concern, but a second concern replaces it. You provide the requested evidence, and suddenly your tone becomes the problem. You apologize for the mistake, and the conversation shifts to whether your apology felt sincere enough. You meet one condition for trust, only to discover that a new condition has appeared. A moving standard creates permanent defense. You remain busy, proving, clarifying, repairing, and reassuring, but there is no point at which the matter can become complete. This can happen without a calculated plan. An anxious or angry person may genuinely keep discovering new objections. What matters is whether the conversation still has a defined purpose. Ask, what specific outcome would resolve this? If the answer is clear, you can decide whether it is fair. If the answer changes every time you approach it, the process may be functioning less like problem-solving and more like control through exhaustion. Do not keep paying for closure when the price is designed to renew itself. Inconsistent reward can hold you in a similar way. Pressure is followed by warmth. Criticism is followed by praise. Access is withdrawn, then suddenly restored when you comply. The return of kindness feels unusually valuable because it ends uncertainty. You may begin managing your behavior around the hope of getting the warmer version back. Again, do not diagnose a person from mood changes. Human beings have uneven days. Look at the sequence. Does warmth return mainly after you surrender a boundary? Does respect disappear whenever you disagree? Are you being taught that peace depends on making yourself easier to direct? Stable respect can survive a difference. Conditional warmth makes agreement the entrance fee. Your defense is not to play the same hot and cold game. It is to stop using temporary warmth as proof that the underlying issue has been repaired. Ask what changed in conduct. Was the request clarified? Was the insult acknowledged? Was the responsibility accepted? Is the boundary now respected when the mood is ordinary again? Relief is a feeling. Repair is a pattern. This is one place people become trapped. They believe they must establish that another person is a manipulator before they are allowed to slow down, ask questions, or refuse. No diagnosis is required. You can respond to the method. The deadline is too short for me to verify this. I am not comfortable keeping that from the person affected. I will not decide while being insulted. I need the complete figures before my name is attached. These sentences describe your participation. They do not claim access to someone else's soul. There is an important counter-argument here. Once you learn the signs of manipulation, it is easy to see them everywhere. Every urgent request starts looking calculated. Every disappointed reaction starts looking like guilt-tripping. Every confident person starts looking controlling. You begin studying tone, timing, and wording until ordinary human imperfection feels like a campaign. That is not freedom. It is fear with a research habit. People communicate badly. They become anxious. They push too hard, apologize poorly, misunderstand boundaries, and repeat phrases they have heard elsewhere. A person can use a manipulative tactic without possessing a fixed manipulative identity. Judge patterns, stakes, and repair. Can they accept a delayed answer? Do they provide the missing information? Can they hear that their wording created pressure? Do they adjust after the boundary becomes clear? One clumsy moment deserves proportion. Repeated pressure after clear communication deserves stronger protection. The purpose of awareness is not to make trust impossible, it is to make trust accurate. You also need to examine the internal partner that manipulation recruits. External pressure finds power through an internal need: approval, certainty, peace, usefulness, the desire not to look foolish after investing time or money, or the urge to win back warmth after someone withdraws it. This does not make you responsible for another person's conduct. It tells you where defense must be built. If approval is the entrance, practice being misunderstood without writing a second explanation. If urgency is the entrance, create a rule against same-minute decisions when no true emergency exists. If guilt is the entrance, define obligations in concrete terms. When loneliness is the entrance, notice whether access is being exchanged for compliance. When sunk cost holds you in place, ask whether you would enter the arrangement today, knowing what you know now. Self-knowledge does not make pressure disappear. It prevents the pressure from feeling mysterious. Now build the response system. When you feel rushed, flattered, cornered, guilty, confused, or strangely responsible for another adult's emotional balance, do not begin by deciding yes or no. First, stop the clock. In a non-emergency, create an interval. It may be 10 minutes, one night, or enough time to read the document. Do not announce a dramatic withdrawal. Simply refuse to decide at the speed of the pressure, "I will come back to you at 6. I need a day to consider that. I will review the full message before answering." Second, state the request in plain language. Remove the praise, accusation, history, and emotional weather. What are you being asked to give, approve, conceal, forgive, sign, lend, risk, or accept? What will the other person receive? What will you carry if the decision goes badly? Third, identify what is missing: a source, a number, a name, a timeline, the other person's account, a written term, a clear consequence, or the reason for secrecy. Do not fill the gaps with whichever version reduces immediate tension. Fourth, separate consequence from threat. A consequence exists whether or not someone uses it to control you. A threat is introduced to make your answer serve the speaker. If we miss the filing deadline, the application waits a month, is a consequence. If you do not sign now, everyone will know you caused this. Add social punishment to force the same action. Examine the first. Do not automatically obey the second. Fifth, decide whose responsibility belongs where. Are you fixing a problem you created, sharing a fair burden, or absorbing the result of someone else's choice because they dislike the consequence? Compassion may lead you to help. Help becomes exploitation when your rescue prevents responsibility from ever returning to its owner. 6. Choose the smallest clear response. A question may be enough. A limited yes may be honest. A direct no may be necessary. You may need documentation, outside advice, distance, or no further conversation. Do not give a courtroom speech when one sentence protects the decision. The longer you explain, the more material pressure has to negotiate with. 7th, observe the response without making it a test. A healthy person may be disappointed, but they can remain connected to reality. They may provide information, negotiate, accept the limit, or return later. A concerning pattern often attacks the interval itself. More urgency appears. The request changes. Flattery becomes insult. Your questions become evidence of disloyalty. New people are recruited to restore pressure. Do not provoke this reaction. Simply stop erasing it when it happens. 8th, record the outcome. What did you fear would happen, and what actually happened? Did the relationship survive a clear boundary? Did the deadline prove false? Did the person find another solution? Did your guilt fade after an hour? Did the risk become clearer once it was written down? This review retrains judgment. You discover that many feared consequences were emotional forecasts, not facts. Sometimes the consequence is real. You may lose access, approval, an opportunity, or a relationship that depended on compliance. That can hurt. Protection is not a promise that every boundary will be rewarded. It is a decision that immediate acceptance will no longer be purchased with long-term self-betrayal. No one becomes impossible to manipulate. Fatigue, grief, authority, desire, fear, and incomplete information can affect anyone. Skilled pressure can bypass habits that work in ordinary situations. The goal is to stop being easy. Easy means your answer can be predicted by one lever. A little guilt produces access. A little urgency removes verification. A little warmth erases the pattern. A little withdrawal makes you chase. Harder to manipulate does not mean harder as a person. It means your decisions have more than one gate. Tone does not replace facts. Urgency does not replace consequence. Confidence does not replace competence. Affection does not replace respect. Apology does not replace repair. Consensus does not replace evidence. You can remain open while requiring reality to arrive with the request. Return to Friday afternoon. It is 4:51 now. The approval button is still waiting. Another message appears. Can you just trust me on this? We are out of time. The old impulse wants the pressure to end. You imagine the irritation, the meeting on Monday, and the possibility that people will say you were uncooperative. You do not pretend those possibilities are meaningless. You restore the conditions of judgment. The plain request is clear. Attach your name to figures you did not verify. The missing information is their source, and the assumptions behind them. The responsibility is also clear. Someone else created a deadline that now depends on your unexamined approval. You write, I have not verified these figures, so I cannot approve them by 5. Send the source data and assumptions. I will review them Monday morning. No accusation, no essay, no promise to rescue the deadline. The reply may be cold. Someone else may approve it. The project may be delayed. On Monday, you may have to explain your decision, but the decision is yours before the outcome arrives. You close the file, note the time, and save the message. The pressure does not vanish immediately. Your body still wants reassurance that everyone understands. You let that feeling remain unfinished. That is the transformation. You did not become suspicious of everyone. You became less willing to confuse another person's preferred speed with reality. You did not stop caring. You stopped making care prove itself through unexamined compliance. You did not learn to control people. You learned to notice when your own judgment was being crowded out of the room. Which lever has been easiest to use on you? Urgency, guilt, flattery, fear, secrecy, or social pressure? And what rule will block it next time? Write one rule you can actually follow. If this helped you see manipulation as a pressure system rather than a mysterious personality type, subscribe to the Machiavelli framework for modern lessons on human nature, self-command, boundaries, reputation, and ethical strategy. You become harder to manipulate when discomfort is no longer allowed to make decisions in your name.